If you're anything like me, you love going back and looking at the old game consoles that you grew up with and enjoyed playing when you were younger. These are wonderful trips down memory lane, and it's a great way to relive and get some of that nostalgia. But more than likely, time has not been very good to these systems. One of my personal favorite systems is the Nintendo Gamecube, and since the Gamecube is about 20 years old now, well, many times it needs some work. The other day my buddy Mark was over and we were just hanging out, playing some Smash Brothers, and well, let's just say we're both pretty equally matched. Oh my gosh! Pikachu is such a garbage character. Now while we were playing, I did happen to notice that Mark's beautiful Spice Orange Gamecube controller had seen some better days. We both acknowledged that it probably needed some work. And as he was getting ready to leave, Mark just kind of says, "Hey, do you want to fix up the controller for me?" And I was just like, sure. So today I'm going to show you how to disassemble, clean, and reassemble your GameCube controllers so that way it looks great for years to come for you. So now that we're gonna break it down, tear this guy apart, see what's inside, clean it up. We've got the overhead camera right up here. Hello. And we're gonna tear it apart, see what's inside, and hopefully make it look really, really good. So first things first, you've got your controller here, and you're gonna wanna obviously just make sure you have a good work surface to do this on. You don't want pieces going everywhere. Keep your space clean. So first thing we're gonna do is we're actually gonna flip it over on the other side, and you can see here on the bottom of it, you've got 6 screws holding the back together here. You're gonna wanna go ahead and take those guys out. These are actually the tri-wing screwdrivers. That kind of looks like a Y. So you're gonna get a bit, get your screwdriver, and you are gonna take this guy apart. Gonna put the screws somewhere safe. All right, so once you get those screws taken out of your controller, this back part is just really gonna just pop right off here, and you should look something like that. We're gonna set this guy to the side, and this part's really pretty easy. You really just kind of start pulling it apart. First thing we're gonna do actually is take the Z button off. It kind of just pops right out here. Stick it in our bin of parts. Wow, you can already start seeing some of the gunk here, especially around the rumble pack and the rumble motor. This controller's definitely seen some better days. I don't know if you can see that all around the edge here, all this gunk build up along here, but that's why we're doing it. That's why we're gonna clean it up. Now, you wanna be kind of careful with the rumble motor here. It is soldered into here, and it looks like they've got a little clip that kind of holds it in place, but on some of these that clip may be broken off or might not be there, and it's very, very easy to snap these solder points here and just pull off the motor, and then it's no good. So we're gonna loosen up this cable here, and the whole assembly really just gonna pull straight off. Try to keep the rumble motor in there as best you can, just so we're not, putting a whole lot of tension on that cable. We're gonna set this to the side for a second. Once you get to this part here, you've got these little membranes on here that basically act as the contact points for the buttons. So you're just gonna pull the membrane off here. Wow, you can see dust and gunk just on this membrane. And you're just gonna do that with each of these. You're gonna pull that membrane off there, pull the center membrane off, stick it in our bin. And this part, you can also just flip it over and dump the pieces out. These are all our buttons. So you got the Y button, X button, A button, B button, start button, and the D-pad. Put them in something secure so they don't roll around either. I like using these bowls here. There's already gunk and crap on the table just from falling off of the controller here. It's kind of gross. So now this part is disassembled. We're gonna set this to the side for now. And we're gonna go to this part. Now this part here is the kind of the shoulder button mechanism, as you can see. There are 4 screws that actually hold this guy in, and they're just standard Phillips head, size screws. So we're gonna swap these out, get one that hopefully fits. Nope. It helps to have the right size screwdriver. Oh man, these guys are tough. You might, if this is the first time a controller has been taken apart, you might have to kind of break the screws loose a little bit since they're still, you know, screwed in from when they were assembled at the factory. So you might have to push down and give it a little bit of torque to kind of break those free. So now once you get your screws loose, we're gonna pull them out very carefully. And you don't have to separate these really. There's only 2 types of screws on these controllers, so I'm just gonna put them in the same container with the other ones. Now, as you can see there, these pop up very easily. So once these kind of come off, you pull one off, pull the other off. We're gonna set these as well in our bin here. And then you can see there's these little springs inside of here. These are pretty easy to, you know, get out. I always just kind of pinch them from both sides and push it in like that, and then you can kind of take this whole assembly apart. Just make sure you get a good grip. There are springs in here, and if you're not careful, you can lose them very easily. So I'll show you that move again. I just kind of get it, pinch from the inside, and then just pull it in like this, and then grab it. So now the bottom half of the shell is taken apart, and we're gonna set that to the side as well. Now these here, this is actually different than other ones I've seen. These have, I don't know if you can see, these have these little arms here that kind of hold it together. I've actually never seen like this before. The ones I've always seen are just the spring and nothing else, but I guess that's kind of to help keep the spring in or something. So we are just gonna pull this out like so, and then the shoulder button just kind of comes off, put that in the bin. Spring comes off like so, put that in the bin too. And it looks like this part should come off as well. You just kind of pop it off. Just remember that the bottom hinge part does kind of slide into here like so and then flip over. Just keep that in mind. And then the membrane on the bottom as well. I'm gonna actually push out with the screwdriver like so, like that. All of these pieces going in the bin to be cleaned. We're gonna do the same thing with the other one. I'm actually gonna push the membrane out first and grab it. This guy apart, disconnect it, pull the spring off, pull that as well, you know, pull that apart. Now, so we've got our board here. The board looks pretty clean. The back of it, it's got a little bit of dirt and grime and stuff like that from this, so I don't think we need it cleaned too much, but we are going to pull off these analog stick. So you're just gonna hold the board, you know, firmly, grab this thing firmly, and then just pop it off like that. I don't know if you can see that, but there's actually like a good bit of just like gunk and grime inside of this potentiometer there. So same thing with the C-stick. We're just gonna firmly grasp the board and firmly grasp the stick.
Firmly grasp it.
And just pull, and it should just pop right off. These are gonna get clean too. There's a ton of just gunk and grime all on the underside of both of these sticks here. So now what we're gonna do as well is we're just gonna get a toothbrush. Hopefully you know what a toothbrush is, and we're just gonna use it to just kind of brush off some of this dirt and grime and stuff like that. It's mostly loose. There's nothing really that's sticking on there. There's some hair and whatnot, but not a ton of stuff. Careful with the C-stick, because since it is just ribbon cable, it's not as sturdy as like this guy up here. I think it's pretty obvious, but you want to use a soft bristle brush when you're doing this. Don't use a metal bristle, it will destroy your board. So now that your table is nice and dirty, I'm actually gonna brush some of this off. So while we've got this out here, we can actually clean up some of the cables. So if you have you can do this with a paper towel or really anything, but I've got a microfiber cloth here. Hang on a second. I just noticed that I have an orange controller with an orange microfiber and an orange tool set. I did not plan that at all, but that is funny. I like that. So you're just gonna get your alcohol. This is 91% isopropyl alcohol. Get your rag. You don't need a ton, but you do want to dampen it a little bit to actually break apart all that dirt and debris. Let's straighten out our cable actually to make it a bit easier. And then you're just gonna put the cable on the side, pinch it here, and then you're just gonna pull the cable through the towel to clean off all that dirt and debris. Not a lot of it, but you can see a little bit there on the rag. We're just gonna do that again the other direction. So we're just gonna slide the cable through. So now that you've got everything, gotten everything disassembled and stripped down, and if you've got all your pieces here, you just want to go to the sink, get some warm or hot soapy water. You can let these sit in them for a little bit. Some of them might need it because the residue and debris from the dirt and sweat has been, looks like, on there for a while. The triggers here are pretty rough. I don't know, but the triggers are pretty rough. They've got a lot of grime and just crap on them, but you just want to scrub them down really well with just like Dawn dish soap, or really any soap for that matter will work. But just make sure you scrub them down, get them nice and clean. We don't want to put any of that debris back in our controller, especially the membranes. These little membranes here, that's like the first line of defense from any dirt and debris. So make sure you scrub these down really well. Clean them out, scrub them good, lay them out on a towel or something, and just make sure you let them dry. You don't want to put any water on the board. You don't want to put water inside the controller. That's going to ruin your board and cause corrosion down the line. So I say give it like a full 24 hours. You can do overnight if you do it like, during the day. Lay them out, leave it overnight, come back in the morning, double check them all, make sure they're really dried out, especially the controller buttons. These buttons, like the A button here, it's really easy for water to get stuck and trapped in those little holes in there. So just make sure those are dried out really well before you put it back together. Now, a little extra step I like to do for the controllers is cleaning the screws actually. The holes on the back of this guy, they're just there to catch dust and dirt and sweat and gross stuff. You want to make sure the screws get cleaned as well because they've been sitting in there a while. So what I like to do is I'll put them in a clear container or something like this. Really any kind of container is going to work. And then I just get a little bit of the rubbing alcohol and we're going to pour it in there. Not a lot, just enough to kind of soak the screws a little bit. And we're just going to spin it around, break up any of that dirt and grime and debris and stuff like that. And then I'm just going to pick them up, get a different brush than the one you use to dust off the controller, because you don't want to put that on the screws or vice versa. And I just kind of give them a quick little scrub down just to pull anything out of the grooves, and then set them just somewhere out of the way. Mainly the ones on the outside of the system. The ones that were on the inside you don't have to do a whole lot to, but the tri-wing screws that have been sitting there for 20 years collecting garbage, just give them a quick wipe down with the alcohol and a toothbrush. I like to get the threads a little bit too, not a ton, but you just want to pretty them up a little bit just to keep them looking good. So we're gonna go clean this up, scrub it down, make sure it's good and dry, and then we're gonna reassemble it. So once you've given your pieces good ample time to dry out after cleaning them, then we're gonna get our boards, get our pieces, and start piecing this thing back together. So first things first, we're actually gonna start with our face bar here. You can already tell just by looking at it how much cleaner this thing is. Just all the dirt and grime and just hand grease, sweat that you've had on this thing has been cleaned up, and it's already looking much better. So first thing we're gonna do with it is we're gonna actually flip it over face down like so. At this point, you can start putting in your face buttons. So we're gonna get our pieces here. We're gonna grab our A button, our B button, X, Y, and those things. Now, something to notice whenever you do start putting your pieces back together is notice on the pieces here, the little buttons, you'll notice that they have these like little tabs on the side right there. And those basically prevent the pieces from going in really in any other spot. It's actually impossible to put them in somewhere and have them fit well. So you can't really put them in wrong because there's only one way to do it. If you try to put it in like that, it just won't let you. So just drop them in there like so, where the tabs match up. You can't really do it wrong, so you just drop them in there like so. And you're gonna do that with all of the pieces as well. Our start button here, the little teeny tiny little piece, we're just gonna drop in just like that. Same with our D-pad. The D-pad I think can go in any direction. I don't think there's a particular way it has to fit in. It should just drop in facing any way. Once that is in, we're actually going to go ahead and grab our little rubber membranes that we use for the contacts. And as you see here on the D-pad, it actually has like a little loop right there that fits on the little loop up here. Actually, make sure you put it the right direction. The little black tabs, little black button parts go out to make contact with the board. Same thing with this here. You are just gonna find, there's little holes here on this part, and you're just gonna look for the little tabs on this side that they fit on. So they fit just like that. So you should have something that looks pretty close to this. Our start button thing as well, it's got some little holes, so it will only go on one direction. Make sure the little holes go on those tabs to hold all the membranes in place like that. So we're gonna start with this as it is right now. We're actually gonna put this to the side, and we're gonna go ahead and grab our bottom shell actually. So with this bottom shell, main thing is we gotta get these triggers put back in. So we're gonna go ahead and grab all the pieces we need to put the trigger back together. All of these out of our little bin. So we're gonna start with the right trigger. It really doesn't matter what order you do it in. We're gonna go ahead and grab one of our springs. You can kind of pull it a little bit just to make sure it retains its springiness, not a ton. Next, we're gonna take the little metal tab that we have, and we're going to hook it onto those two clips like so. So once you get to this part, you should have something that kind of looks like this, to where you can squeeze them together and you have your tab going across along with your spring right there. So and then we're gonna get our little membrane. We're gonna stick the membrane right in there. I don't think it matters which membrane you use, it should just fit just like that. So once you have your trigger unit kind of how assembly put together, it should look something like this. Arm going across it. These little feet here on the top of this black piece should be facing up whenever you put it in there. So we're gonna grab the bottom shell, and we're just gonna insert the trigger part first. It might seem kind of hard, like it doesn't want to fit, but if you kind of twist it, it will fit in there just fine. And then it should have some plastic for it to sit in. So once you have it in there, it should look something kind of like this. You should be able to kind of squeeze it down. You can test it out, make sure it moves. Don't do it too much, because if you push too hard, it will pop that bottom membrane off without having the controller deck in there. So we're gonna set that down. We're gonna grab our cover here for it. The cover should also only go on one direction. As you can see, they're kind of shaped to mold it. This one here actually has a space in the top. I don't know if you can see that right there. Has a space in the top for the Z button to fit. We're gonna slide that right on top like that, and we're gonna throw our two screws in there, our black screws to hold that down. We're gonna go screw in that one, and other screw in this one as well. You want them to be tight. You don't want them to be, you know, just cranked down so hard that you can never get them out, but you want them to be snug. You want this piece to stay in when you're putting pressure on that trigger. So just snug it up a little bit. You don't have to crank it down super hard, but that's what it should look like when you're done. Assembly should be in there. Should be able to kind of push it down a little bit. Don't click it down to test it, because again, you will pop off that bottom membrane, and it is a bit of a pain to get back on once you've got these screws in. So we're gonna do the same thing with the other one here. So we're gonna get our shoulder button. So we're gonna start with our shoulder button for the other one, as well as our kind of metal clip thing. And there should be two little, see if we'll focus on there, two little slots for it to sit in. You're just gonna get it, clip it in like so, and it should sit just like that. So once you've got your little tab on there, we're gonna get our other part, which is this black part with our membrane. We're gonna set it on top of the, on top of the cylinder. We're actually gonna hook it on first on these little tabs there, and then it will sit in just like that. And at this point, we're gonna grab our spring. We're gonna drop our spring on top. It's a little bit hard to show in here, but we're just gonna get our spring, compress it down, and then drop the other cylinder on top. So now you should have something that looks like that. We're gonna do the same thing like we did with the other one. We're gonna just kind of insert trigger first. We're gonna kind of twist it to get it set in there, but it should sit right in there. It's got a little cradle that this bottom part will sit in. Give it a little test, looks good. Now we're gonna get our cover, drop our cover on there, grab our other 2 black screws, and we're just gonna tighten them down. Give a little test, looks good. Nice and snug in there. We're gonna set that down to the side. Now at this point, you should have no more black screws, no more tiny screws. You should only have the screws that are left to hold in the bottom to the top. Basically, you should only have the bigger tri-wing screws left. If you have any other screws, go back, watch it, try a couple steps again, and then put it back together, because I think if you have more screws, you did something wrong. Now we're gonna go ahead and grab our controller deck here, and we're gonna put our sticks back on. So the C stick is really straightforward. I will say there are little tabs on the inside here to where you can only fit them on one way, at least with the analog sticks. They've got little like indentions that go upward, so the C stick and this guy, they only go in one way. So these are easy to put on. Just give it some support, make sure it's facing the correct direction. C is pretty easy to figure out because it's an actual letter and you have to have it facing the right way. And once you get it settled, just give it a little bit of pressure. If it doesn't seem like it wants to get on there, you may not have it straight, so just double check that. And it should just pop right on. And there you go, so that sticks on good. Now the main analog stick, it also can only go on one way, but you can tell which way it is. The analog stick actually has a little bit of an indentation on this part, and that is because when it rolls around on the board, there's actually a solder point right there, that if it doesn't have that, it will push on and potentially damage. So, but same thing as the C stick, you're just gonna stick that on there, give it a little push down, give it a little roll, make sure it sticks on there. So now it's the fun part. Now we're gonna get our front piece here that has all of our buttons. So now we're gonna get our controller board here, and we're gonna put it with the sticks facing down. It will fit just like that. Kind of want to lift it up a little bit too to take any pressure off the buttons, but everything should fit in nice and snug in there. Now the cables here are usually zip tied at the top like this one is, but this will actually go underneath this little black tab, and then where the loop is, it loops around this kind of point right there and actually feeds through the top. So you just want to get like a screwdriver or something, push that down, make sure that's seated really nicely around there. There's actually, it looks like almost a space just for the zip tie to sit right there. So just make sure that's seated very well before you put anything else together. Now, before we forget, let's go ahead and get our Z button. That's gonna fit just right on this side here. This one doesn't really stay put. You kind of have to have the front, or the back panel on to really have it set, but it should set right in there. Make sure all the kind of edges get set around the lip of that edge. So it should sit in just like that. So now we're ready to put our back panel back on the controller and screw it down, make sure it's good. Now, something to note before you put the back panel back on is note these guys right here. These guys on the side here are these little sliders, and they slide up and down. And basically, this is what gives the GameCube controllers its basically dual input. You're able to slide it down like in something like Super Mario Sunshine, to have like a little bit of water on the sprayer, but then when you get to the end of it, it clicks down, which makes contact with this guy right here. So whenever you put the back panel back on, make sure that these sliders slide all the way up and they're pushed all the way up as high as they can go, because that's the way it naturally wants to sit with the springs on the back of this. So once you have everything kind of pushed down, make sure these guys are set nice and snug. And you're just gonna get your back panel and just fit it on top here. So once everything looks good here, we can actually go ahead and put these screws back on. We're gonna go ahead and grab our different bit ends. Remember, these are the kind of tri-winged shaped screws for the GameCube. All right, flip it over, let's give it a look. I mean, come on, like, that just looks so much better than when we started with. It's clean, there's no gross grime or dirt under the sticks, this kind of sweat and just stains and buildup around the edges gone. Hopefully it'll be way more responsive now that there's not, you know, dust and grime on the edges of the buttons, basically giving you resistance. But yeah, everything looks good here. Such a nice looking color too, like, that's such a good looking orange. This is one at some point I'll have to get to add to kind of my GameCube controller assembly, because this one's not mine, this one because it's Mark's, so I need to get one of my own. But that is our look and repair of the GameCube controller. That's about it. At this point, double check it, plug it into your system, make sure it works. If it doesn't work, you may need to take it apart and maybe get some rubbing alcohol, clean any of maybe the contacts or the pad, you know, the pressure points on the board. But you should be good after this. So thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful and insightful, and hopefully you learned something and it helps you out if you are wanting to take care of your stuff and make them last for a long time. I hope that this was beneficial to you. So thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll probably make more of these, so stick around if you want to see more controller teardowns, but maybe some console teardowns in the future, game reviews, stuff like that. If that's anything you're into, stick around, hit the like button if you enjoyed. Consider subscribing if you want to see more of these videos. And thank you, appreciate you watching. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video. Now, something to notice with these parts here is that, can you stop, please? Please stop, okay. Hi, this is my cat. This is my cat, and she's here just to ruin the shoot. Can you get down, please, without knocking over my camera? Oh, I don't like you back there. I don't like you.